And welcome into Talk Football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99 FM. What to talk about on a week like this? Is there anything going on in football, right? LSU, Alabama, Florida, Georgia. We'll get to that game. Willie Taggart, thanks to a lady that makes other ladies happy and more self-confident. The Florida State Seminoles have got the buyout they needed and Willie Taggart out. Good guy, but it was inevitable. And somebody the other day is like, hey, man, is it too soon to, these people posting about it? Goody, we're glad he's gone. You know what? If I told you tomorrow, whatever you're doing, that you were about to get about a $20 million in a buyout, 17, whatever they had, and you could walk away. So you're getting an unemployment check for about $17 million. Are you still going to be feeling bad for that individual? And the answer is a big fat no, especially the way he coached. Joining us now from the NFL sidelines, right here to the ESPN Pensacola studio, kind enough to make time for us each and every weekday afternoon from 12 to 1. You can be part of it, 850-623-1330. Coach K. Stevenson. Coach, appreciate your time as always.
Always good to be with you.
Well, Coach, let's start with that. Willie Taggart's out. It was inevitable. I mean, this was a situation where you knew the writing was on the wall. It was a matter of when and not if. And ultimately, when you lose to a rival that bad at home, that was the tipping point.
Yeah, I think the way the game went the other day, my guess is that plans were in the works to do something next year with the coaching position at Florida State. But I don't think they could wait after as you mentioned, the traditional rivalry with Miami at home, the way they've looked all year anyway, and last year, and then what happened on Saturday. Enough was enough.
Yeah, and it was, and I know with you have many contact sources all over, and none of them at this point. Just knowing that you understood as much as anybody that it was going to happen from who you talked to, and that's all. Everybody understood that. If you knew somebody that was close to Florida State or within the organizations, this was just a matter of time, and now it's done. And Clay Helton, I joked with the post yesterday. Clay Helton's got his hands up in the air, and he goes, I beat you, Willie. I beat you to the – no, but you know what? Hey, the way they played against Oregon, we might be getting that call too. We'll get to more on that, but we got a lot of games to cover. So let's get to four down territory where we take a look at the biggest stories. In first down, one that I would like to ignore and swipe under the rug, but Baltimore Ravens, they showed up. They had a good game plan. That was a complete team effort. Earl Thomas, a veteran, stepped up, made big plays. Mark Ingram ran really hard, but New England, for the people out there that are, well, this team has a bunch of kinks. Look, they always have these games, and then they go up the next week and win by 40. It was a good football team, played by a good team at home, and they got up, they showed up, and in the NFL, when you have that energy, you have that passion, teams can win. And Baltimore played one heck of a football game.
Well, they did, and give them all the credit in the world. If you remember last year, the Patriots laid an egg with Miami, got beat by Miami.
And Kansas City as well the year. Yep.
Yes, it came back and won the Super Bowl. So I'm not concerned about that, but I give the credit to Baltimore. They had an excellent game plan. I think that if you really get after New England with the run game, I think that's their Achilles heel. And, Lord, they did it. And Lamar Jackson, I'll tell you, is as good a runner running back as any running back in the league. He's just got exceptional skills as a running back. I guess he's the best athlete on the field, regardless of who's playing. So, my goodness, give him credit. He's quite a threat when he gets the ball.
Yes, and a lot of Alabama fans had to be pleased. Ozzie Newsome, the general manager from Alabama, one of the best tight ends of all time, is a guy that has built, they call it sort of the SEC of the right there of the area right there in Baltimore, because they're a good team, and this is a team that has a lot of good athletes, but without former Heisman and Mark Ingram, and also Marlon Humphrey, who's a beast. His dad was good, and he just had, that play turned, that was the tipping point right there. And Julian Edelman, it was just one of those kind of things, too, that the guys that don't do this, you don't see Edelman make mistakes. And I watched it again, and there was nothing. You were waiting to see maybe if the knee was down. Nope, it wasn't. Great play. 70 yards back to the house. 14-point swing right there.
And that was the end penalties and an offsides and a key critical third down situations. You just don't see it. No, so this was that game, and they move on from here. But I give Baltimore credit, and we'll see if they can sustain that type play, Chad, as they go forward.
Coach, second down here, I want to ask you the question. Based on the stats he's putting up, he's on pace right now to break every single record for all-purpose yards at this point. Now, it's very early, but throughout his first 3 years in the NFL, he's done as good as anybody, and that's Christian McCaffrey. He has the highest percent per game of touches and highest percent of yards per game than anybody else. So pretty much when they take those stats and they throw them into some machine today like Y2K computers and they spit one back out, Christian McCaffrey is the most important non-quarterback to his team in the history of the NFL through his first 3 seasons. And it shows. Yesterday, the guy goes out there, catches a touchdown pass, rushes for 146, had 3 touchdowns and 170 all-purpose yards. Coach, would it be fair to say that Christian McCaffrey is one of, if the not best player right now in the NFL?
He certainly should be in the conversation for MVP. There's no doubt about that. And even this morning, I've heard him mentioned on some of the ESPN shows and last night as well. So I think that's certainly justified, and I think it's going to come.
He reminds me of a great 70s, 60s player who can do everything for you. He there's not one thing that he does electric, but he does everything across the board great. He can do kick returns, the little passes, and makes plays for his team. And they need him right now.
And
as
even
the Panthers.
blocks well, too.
He does.
Which people don't realize.
And he grew up in a good household because his dad played like that for Denver. His dad, Easy Ed. They're now 5-3 and a big win against the Tennessee Titans right there as they were not able to get it done. And looking at the matchups in third down here, Coach, the way the Kansas City Chiefs battled back to beat Minnesota, huge win right there, 26-3. Butker makes the kick late. They rally back. There was a lot of close games at 12 o'clock. The 12 o'clock starts had that game. Pittsburgh-Indy was close. You had the game right down the road with Chicago and Philadelphia. The Philadelphia pulled out late, but there were some really good games at 1 o'clock, and that was one of them. Big win there for Kansas City.
Well, sure. But if you noticed again, Moore had an outstanding day as a quarterback. That team is the most quarterback-friendly team, and I'm finding a way to phrase this without going too far overboard or saying something that I don't feel is true. I think they're the most quarterback-friendly team in the National Football League, meaning that they have all of the skill people there that they could possibly use. They've got the speed, and they've got the overall talent. And he's just surrounded with it. And their offensive line played extremely well, gave him plenty of time. So, and Andy Reid did a great job calling plays again. So, I don't know, Chad, you tell me, does the system have something to do with a quarterback being good there?
Well, and I feel like he's coached every single team in the NFL, Steve Spagnuolo. I feel like I've always seen his name. He's now the Kansas City Chiefs defensive coordinator. And but Steve, you look right now at what he did. Kirk Cousins, who's a pretty accurate quarterback, 19 for 38. That's not that great. I mean, at 50% right there. And then Dalvin Cook averaged 3 yards a carry, only had 71 yards on 21 touches. So the defense, which for Kansas City usually has been the Achilles heel, really stepped up when needed because, yes, Matt Moore was efficient. Damian Williams gave him some good touches. But without them making those plays that usually when they get down, as Minnesota had the lead, they would let those teams continue to score. Kansas City's defense, they stepped up big for Patrick Mahomes not being able to play and getting that win.
Well, and I give the defense, I was negligent in not giving the defense some credit. But the point that I was making is look at the talent surrounding the quarterback position with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins, the speed there.
Yeah.
And Travis Kelce.
And the backs now with Williams. And don't forget, maybe the most dynamic piece of the puzzle is you got Andy Reid calling the plays.
Mm-hmm.
So
and he has to wait in line, but every time he actually didn't have a reception yesterday, but McCole Hardman was a second-round pick out of Georgia.
Yeah,
I mean, this was
yeah.
and Georgia's missing him huge, but Hardman was their best player, and he's got some speed. They've got speed behind speed.
Yeah, they've got
And
speed over speed. There's no
DeMarcus
question
Robinson,
about that.
former Gator, he's coming. A lot of good
Yeah.
players on that team, and LaShawn McCoy is aged. He is not giving them anything. But overall, their team is that was a big win for Kansas City, and a game that both teams right now, they both are playoff teams to me. I mean, they're both 6-3 now, but Minnesota was playing some good football and lost that. Fourth down here, Coach. The way the Green Bay Packers lost, do you feel at this point, because they had won so many close games, Aaron Rodgers smirked when asked, he must have ate the wrong thing for lunch. It was a late game. But L.A., I think it was a better football team now at 4-5 than people started off. They quickly wanted to throw this team under the bus. Remember, this was a 12-4 squad last year. They get Phillip Rivers. Gordon is back consistent, got 2 touchdown runs, which they needed. Mike Williams, their first-round pick from 2 years ago, who helped Clemson win a national title, was back. Hunter Henry was healthy. They looked like the actual Chargers that most people wanted to see, and they played a good football game yesterday.
Well, they played exceptionally well, and Phillip Rivers had a great day. He really, him against his old nemesis, he had a great day. And I just give him a lot of credit. But, there's a little something to this that people should think about. It was even announced on television yesterday that the coach made some comment about their coach for Green Bay made some comment
Matt
about
LaFleur?
Yeah, we may have gotten out here too late. Okay, now forget about the excuse, because there's no excuse. They got beat, and I'm not making an excuse. But I will tell you this: you have to be so careful with the travel and going east to west. Especially, you got to really be careful. Now, what could have happened is the amount of sleep that they, and plus you have, listen, every base is covered. You have your trainers and your doctors and everybody checking on when you make a trip like that. The morning of the game, you have people checking on, talking with them, sit them down, talk to them, make sure that they are all there, that you get the same sparkle in the eye and bounce in the step that you normally do. If you don't, there could be something amiss. And if you went back and checked, they may not have had the amount of sleep that they have been used to getting before ball games, which could have accounted for some of the questionable haze, I guess you might say, that some of them may have had. And that's entirely possible. I've seen it.
And you also lived it too. When you were in the World League, you were in a number of I'm sure a lot of meetings and other things going on that you saw, because those questions had to come up. People just see things, no matter what it is today, especially even more today. I always say, read the paper, not the headlines, because people just want to read the headlines. But people just assume that everybody shows up and you do your thing and you move on. But it takes semantics to plan, especially these big games. For the World League, you guys probably had to sit in a lot of calculated type meetings. Okay, how are we going to have all these teams be able to travel Europe and all across America? And you see these games, even yesterday with Houston and Jacksonville, Coach, where there has been 17 games over the last 3 years over in London, Wembley Stadium, and even Mexico City. But we're focused on London. And the average score, the average margin of victory is right now 22 points in those games. That doesn't happen in the NFL. And the only reason is one team sometimes shows up and the others don't. And you're seeing, even yesterday, Jacksonville's better than a 26-3 loss. I mean, but that's what you're getting. And a lot of times it's because one team isn't planned right. They're not prepared. And that brings up a big question, because I think we're going down a path to see a team overseas, especially to start.
We're going to. It's going to be in London. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
But how can that work if you've got a game on the West Coast and let's say it's on 3 or 4 days rest to try to get back, and the semantics of being able to be a good football team and have people over there? Can it work?
Yeah, it can work, but you just have to coordinate very carefully the schedule and incorporate buys with trips, either way, going over or coming this way. And try to include the bye weeks as a buffer in there. And they may go to two bye weeks anytime you're playing over there. Anything could happen like that that could give you an edge. But it's going to happen now. They're going to be over there whether there's a bye week and whether they they have to play on Sunday and get in a plane and go over there that night.
Don't piss off Roger Goodell. You have a Monday night football game on the West Coast and play Thursday night in London.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Don't get them. But looking right now at the 4-down territory, Coach, college football, we'll get to that when we come back. A lot of big games to get to. We'll go over our winner of our big ticket giveaway right there. We had a chance for every week on Talk Football with Coach K Trivia. Calvert's in the Heights, $25 gift card and 2 hours of free shooting with 2 people at Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range right there on Highway 29. So the winner of that, so far, we had 38 people coming in, and it was Sam Melton was the victory right there coming through. As Sam, nobody got the score perfect out of the 38 people that picked on the show, and we had it on Friday, opened it up on Friday for this. We're going to try to get that earlier for LSU Alabama this week, so we can have hundreds of people, somebody that's like winning, like, no, don't do that. But we actually will give you guys a chance. But Sam had the closest score after Georgia got the victory 24-17. Sam had 27-17. So not too shabby right there.
Not too shabby.
Picked. So congratulations, Sam. If you are out there listening, we've got your information, and we will go ahead and get that to you here and orchestrate. So congratulations, Sam, the winner of our Talk Football Trivia giveaway. This week, I don't know, is there a big game in college football we could do? I don't know if there is. Maybe we'll look. I'll try to figure that one out. But we might have heard of one down the road there in Tuscaloosa. When we come back, we'll talk some more. Roll Tide Radio will be on today from 1 to 2. And then the Feinbaum Show. I'm sure it's a busy week for Paul and his crew out there of arguments and the excitement between LSU and Alabama fans. Another Game of the Century, Part 2. When we come back, we'll talk some college football right here on ESPN Pensacola. It's Talk Football with Coach K.
Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Pros like you rely on trusted brands to get the job done right. Lowe's is here to help with more of those brands in stock, and even better, will save you money too. Stop in today and pick up a Metabo HPT 1 3/4-inch 15-degree pneumatic roofing nailer for $40 less, now just $249. And get a DeWalt 20-volt Max 7-tool combo kit for only $399. That's a huge savings of $370. The kit includes a drill, impact driver, angle grinder, recip saw, flashlight, batteries, and more. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through 11/13 U.S. only.
Algae. That murky green stuff may not seem very useful, but it could be the future of energy. That's why ExxonMobil and Synthetic Genomics are developing biofuels from algae, so that the trucks, ships, and planes that drive our economy could one day run on algae biofuels with half the greenhouse gas emissions of today's fuels, keeping transportation humming while cutting emissions. Learn more at energyfactor.com.
The Paul Feinbaum Show.
Everything you wanted to happen hasn't happened.
Oh, my gosh. That's all any of y'all want to talk about is Alabama.
You're really not understanding the conversation, but anyway, we can move on.
Alabama's dynasty has just begun.
Hold on a second, Charles. Somebody wants to talk to you.
I don't want to talk that compelling moron.
He's nothing but a lame-headed old man.
2 till 5 every weekday afternoon. ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
You're out of your freaking mind, cow turd.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola, 1330.
And welcome back. It is Talk Football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Proud to bring you the games this week. Philadelphia Eagles and Chicago Bears was heard right here after we were done at World of Beer for the NFL Tailgate Show. Had some fun, beautiful weather, and got to watch all the games. The big stories, Willie Taggart has been fired. His buyout has been taken care of at Florida State after a tough loss to the Miami Hurricanes, who, when you lose to a rival, it hurts that much more. Auburn gets a victory. Ole Miss played tough in that one, Coach. It was a game where, Auburn at this point, even in a win, Gus Malzahn is under a microscope every single game. And when you're winning games like that at home as a 20-point favorite by 6 points against a now 3-6 Ole Miss team, people are going to be watching. Those are the games that Auburn, like they did against Arkansas, like they did against Mississippi State, they have to dominate in order to.
Let me tell you, if they had lost that game to Ole Miss,
he would have been gone soon.
He would have probably been gone sooner than people think, because he's got some monsters coming up.
But here's the thing with all of that, though, and I don't think it. I'm saying it's not going to happen. They're not as good, but if Auburn won out, it would actually be hard to keep them out of the college football playoff. And what I mean by that is they have Georgia and Alabama left. Mm-hmm. Now, they're sitting at 7-2, and their only losses came to at Florida in a very close game that they had the lead at one point in the third, and a tough game which they led going into the fourth quarter against LSU. 23-20 at LSU is not a bad loss. So their two games are games that – so the perception of them is always – I feel the same way. It's like they're underachieving. They do. And they're sitting here at 7-2, and their two losses are losses that almost a lot of people in the country would have. At Florida and at LSU in close ball games. I don't think they'll probably have 4 by the end of the year against Georgia and against Alabama. But currently, if they did go out there and win these games, they're still actually not officially ruled out of the title hunt.
They could be there, but I doubt it.
We'll see. They get to play Georgia coming up here on the 16th. They got their bye week, so good time to rest and relax. In the SEC West, there is no time off. Coach, looking at the game with a conversation has been brought up. Urban Meyer to Notre Dame actually, has been one. Look, USC, I know where we've talked about it, but when you barely beat a bad Virginia Tech team in the final seconds, and that's just not acceptable for their fan base and where they want to be right now. And Brian Kelly has had his ups and downs. At this point, there's nothing to say he's on the hot seat, but if Urban Meyer called tomorrow and you're the athletic director at Notre Dame, because this is if that's a serious conversation, getting Urban Meyer can be a game changer to the resources and money that a school like Notre Dame can work with.
Well, on the surface, you're right, and there would be some interest, and they'd want to hear what he was talking about, if for nothing else, to log that information for future use. But it would all depend on how would it affect the university if they fire Kelly. Believe me, that would be the number one criterion. And if it didn't fit, wouldn't matter if they could get Urban Meyer or Vince Lombardi or Newt Rockne. They would have to keep him. So,
well, officially, somebody texted the other day. They go, "Isn't Urban Meyer retired?" And I just started to laugh. I said, "Yeah, yep, that's right." And no politicians. They always want to do what's best for our government too, right? So that's looking at the other games going on right now. One of the ones that a lot of people probably were not watching on this coast, but it was one heck of a football game. I go back. We were actually at the Argo Walk. UWF end up winning, and now they have won 7. At this point, 7-1 on the season. Coach Shinnick's team's doing a great job. Big win for the Argos right there. I know you're proud of what Coach has done. You've talked to him a number of times.
Oh, absolutely. We're very proud of him.
We're having lunch with the
guys.
guys.
I'm surprised this was a close game because they've got Valdosta State coming up next week. So, number 1 in the country.
Huge game. And they're building the confidence. They didn't play well this week, but they found a way to win. And that's a huge sign. But we were out there at the Argo Walk. We were emceeing it, Brent Lane and myself, and had a chance to go out there. Davis was out there, all the guys, Justin. But Utah-Washington was a game that I did not get to see, but I went back and watched the highlights. Washington 33. Utah 33-28 win. And right now they're currently right there with Oregon to win the Pac-12. Big win and a good football game, too.
Yeah, that was was not a surprise by any stretch. I thought Washington might pull it out, but not a surprise that Utah won. They're a good football team.
One of the underdogs in SMU has fallen from the ranks as a 54-48 barn burner. That's my conference right there, the American with UCF. So defense is optional. Defense is definitely optional in that one. In Memphis with a 54-48 win on a game that most of you probably were not watching either at about 2:30. So a big win there. Looking at some of the other scores and the games getting into Florida, Georgia. And this is the game that we covered. We talked about it. Coach, I left saying, yes, there were some bad calls. And if you go – a lot of my friends on Twitter or any of them on Facebook or any social media are big Florida fans. I grew up in a Florida household. I always joke, thank God it was University of Florida with UF in our hedge bushes and not Florida University. That would have ticked off a lot of people driving by. But I look at the way that Florida played, and the truth of the matter is, no matter what they did, no matter what the calls, Georgia's just right now a better football team. They were a better football team, and you could see it by the offensive line, the size, the speed, the way that they separated from gaps. This was a team, though, that Florida stayed with it, and it was the end result was 27-17, but Georgia was just a better football team throughout the course of the game.
I thought so, no question about it. I thought Georgia was, without question, a better football team, and my goodness, what a game their quarterback came back and had. And here's a guy that should be with losing basically all their receivers and playing the way he's played and putting that football team on his shoulders. He should be a guy that should be somewhere in contention, at least be talked about with the Heisman as well. He's Georgia looked extremely proficient in just about every area of that football game, offense, defense, special teams. But and I was surprised. I thought Florida might be on the verge of taking that next step and maybe beating a team like Georgia. They weren't, but they're on the way. They're a good football team. But I will tell you this, and I think both alumni, and they probably get mad at me a little bit, but I will say this to you in all honesty. I don't think either team, Georgia would come the closest, but I don't think either team would beat Alabama or LSU.
I think that's a good pecking order right there. I think, like you said, Georgia would have a shot. I do want to make a correction because everybody does judge, and I'm on now the network pretty much throughout the entire day on every local show, so it'll get back to me. I know this, but it was 24-17 too. I had that, and I knew that. I watched the game, but the difference was we had our Pick'ems winner. That one was 27-17, so that's what I read. But 24-14 was it? The score. It was a 7-point game, but if you watched it, that's a little misleading because Georgia really at no point. It was 24-10. They scored with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, but the game was really at one point it was 10-3. But outside of that, there was never a point where it was tied late into the ball game. It was always the Florida Gators, were trailing by 2 touchdowns, a touchdown, then they came back to 10. So Georgia pretty much controlled winning that football game. So if you're just waking up looking at the paper, it's a little more misleading than the way Georgia not coasted, but had a comfortable lead knowing that they were going to get the job done.
Yeah, I think you could obviously say that. And they played, they went tough on Florida the entire football game. They never took their foot off the accelerator.
Coach, looking at the game, though, one of the things is when Steve Spurrier, your former teammate of yours, he said that when he says they need to run the you-know-what ball, I guess you might have to say they might want to be more of a team that wants to run the football. P. Ryan only had 7 touches during the course of the game. They never established that, and they were running quarterback draw plays with a guy that it looked like he's actually had stickums on the bottom of the turf with Kyle Trask. Trask does a lot of things good. Speed's not one of them. And there was 3 or 4 plays where they had him take off, and it was, nothing was developed at all throughout the course. The game planning to that, it looks like I'd like to see more consistent balance. And I know it has a lot to do with their offensive line as well, but consistency would be one as a Gator fan I think a lot of people would like to see.
Well, I would agree with Steve, the old ball coach. And I think certainly they need to be able to run the ball better, to control the football game. Can't do it the way they're doing it right now. And I don't think Florida has really reached their what they really want to be, their identification yet. I just don't see it.
You said on Friday on the show, if Georgia wins this game, they're going to want to be consistent on the ground and eat up as much clock. Exactly right. Georgia, 37 touches, 120 yards on the ground. The Florida Gators, 19 carries, 21 yards rushing. That's if you want to see where it looked like a dominant coasting victory, that's it. Because the quarterback play was pretty consistent. Both had around 250, 270, 2 touchdowns each, no picks. It was the running game for Georgia established their presence early and dominated the interior line.
Well, plus Fromm had some very, very critical throws that he put right on the money. And they did a good job catching the ball and getting down with it. But he played an outstanding football game too. I think he threw for well over 200 yards and a couple of touchdowns. But anyway, he played extremely well, I thought.
And even with Georgia winning that, it's funny because in a lot of leagues, if you look at the Big 12 or the Pac-12, immediately the next point is when you beat Florida. I heard 5 or 6 people this week go, well, looks like Georgia's head to the SEC title game to take on either Alabama or LSU, which, yes, if we had to pick a scenario, that is correct. But they still have Missouri, they still have at Auburn, and they still have Texas A&M and at Georgia Tech, team that beat Miami a couple weeks ago who just beat Florida State. Like, most teams would say, okay, you do that when you're paying teams at the end of the year or whatever. And when you have Missouri, Auburn, Texas A&M, and at Georgia Tech, things can happen. That's just funny how the perception immediately as we mark those games. Those are 4 big games coming up for Georgia.
Well, sure, they'll be heavily favored in all 4.
Yeah.
But
at Auburn, it would be close.
Maybe, yeah, that should be a close one. Yeah.
But it should be fun to watch, and a big win there as Georgia now 7-1. The Florida Gators 7-2 will remain in the top 10 though. Georgia now coming in at number 6, and Florida getting enough credit as they should. Their 2 losses, tough games to Georgia and LSU, but checking in at number 10. When we come back, we're going to take a look here at the NFL, some of the big headlines as well. Talk some more about the future of what's going on at Florida State, and also what's happening right now to some of these calls that it just is getting worse and worse with some of these 15-yard penalty plays. I know the safety is important, but it's something that needs to be discussed. Coming back for more, it's Talk Football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
If you're a small business owner, there's no better place to find the impact hire to help your business than LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs takes the time to learn more about who you're looking for and then recommends qualified candidates from their community of engaged and career-minded people candidates who you likely won't be able to reach anywhere else. The truth is, over 70% of the U.S. workforce is on LinkedIn, and posting your job on LinkedIn gives you the best chance of finding and starting a conversation with your next star recruit. It's no surprise a new hire is made every 8 seconds using LinkedIn. So build your winning team by posting a job on LinkedIn and visit linkedin.com/sports to get $50 off your first job post. That's linkedin.com/sports for $50 off your first job post. linkedin.com/sports. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck, Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
There's a lot going on right now, and broadcasters are on the ground covering all of it, bringing you the weather, the traffic, and breaking news, all while entertaining you 24 hours a day. Someone needs to tell you what's going on around the world and in our hometowns, and that someone is us. We are free radio. We are always there. We are broadcasters. Visit wearebroadcasters.com or text radio to 52886 to learn more. Furnished by NAB and this station.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back. It is Talk Football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Chad Brillante with Coach K Stevenson. After a busy week in the NFL, New England suffers their first loss while the Dolphins get their first win in a game that the Jets just looked like they wanted it less. And we'll get to some more on Florida State and also more on the LSU-Alabama game coming up here. But after Willie Taggart gets fired, it looks like it has been cleared today. Now, there's rumors. It was one lady named Sarah who owns a company called Spanx, and women wear them, and they're happy with her. And listen, she was like, here's the money. We're done. Moving on. Now, that's we'll get more on that. But the focus of this is Taggart's out. It was inevitable. It was going to happen regardless. It looks like they found the money for the buyout. He can golf now and hang out. I don't even know if he likes golf, but he's got enough money to be fine. I look at the potential person to be hired next, Coach, and I think people need to be realistic because Florida State, from a financial standpoint and how they've been playing lately, it is not something where they can just have the bid that a Texas was looking at, even though Texas was sort of in the same path. They were having some bad years, 6-6, 7-5 teams, but Texas and the resources that they had to work with, they could fly Nick Saban on a chopper and offer him a number. Just how many zeros do you want, Nick? Florida State's not working with that, and it's going to be very intriguing to see what level or what caliber a coach ends up being at Florida State.
Well, that's true. And like Texas now, they had much, much better facilities. And Florida State has a ways to go yet to get their facilities to the same standard as most of the SEC, let's put it that way, or a good portion of the SEC. So that's a hindrance. There will be some political fallout, always is, from the inside. We don't know what all of that is, but we know there will be some. And they will. There's going to be some scrutiny by obviously the FSU alumni and the FSU fans, and to what extent how that goes, how much the alumni and the fan boosters and so on are going to be involved. A lot of things take shape, and of course the bottom line is the dollars. Can you compete these guys, I don't think you could, for example, Stoops. I don't think you could talk to Mark Stoops unless you're offering at least $7 or $8 million. Okay, right
for Bob Stoops.
Bob Stoops.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't think Florida State can offer that at this point. They may be able to, but I don't think so. And they're hurting with attendance, quite frankly, and that's going to stay that. It's going to stay that way until they start winning, and they're bringing. I told Florida State people this years ago, that 80+ thousand seat edifice they have down there. Mm-hmm. How do you think you're going to fill that when you've got Wake Forest and Boston College and North Carolina State coming in? Unless unless they have good teams, it's going to be tough to fill it.
And people just want on the surface. It's like they think it's Halloween and they're handing out candy. A lot of people said today, Matt Rule's doing a great job at Baylor. Why doesn't he come on board? And I said, well, yeah, okay, Baylor, that might be a job that because of the situation of how Art Briles left it and the way they're playing now is they're off to their best start. They're undefeated right now, almost top 10. But Matt Rule also, remember, he came from Temple. He got paid. He didn't get paid a lot, but he also is under contract and extension until 2027. So they'd have to restructure that deal. There's a lot of these coaches that it's not just as easy as I want you. It's easier to look at a guy like an Urban Meyer or a Bob Stoops that's free right now that they could, but those two guys are also heavy hitters. And if USC or Notre Dame is on the same list of possibilities, I know Notre Dame's not done yet, but if USC, which is pretty inevitable, or Florida State, the Noles are not going to be able to compete financially with the resources that a team like that has.
Probably not. I don't want to underestimate them. Mm-hmm. Somebody may be sitting there saying, well, you don't know what you're talking about, because we can. But I just have to kind of doubt it at this point. Now, having said that, we can speculate all we want.
That's what we do. And looking at some of the names, let's go over a list. Luis Torres of the Orlando Sentinel, and I know he works directly at Florida State. I knew him when he was over at Orlando when I was with ESPN Orlando, and have some respect for him. I know him and Mike Bianchi do a lot of the reporting with Florida and Florida State and UCF. But they've never published anything in the paper that says actually fake national title. So they're actually credible on that down there for Central Florida. But looking right now at Kendall Briles, the possibility coach. Let's go through this. Kendall Briles, would they go within? It'd be the easiest way. But, we're firing Willie for looking bad. I watched that game. I mean, went back and watched the play. The offense didn't look good either. So what can we say here? Because Kendall Briles has not done an incredible job either this year. He's done a decent job, but I would say no to that personally.
Well, I don't think so. He was on the same staff. He's been exposed to and a part of the same staff that has done whatever they've done to this point.
It's true.
Plus, he's young, and I think you need somebody to come in who has gained some respect. At this point, that program is not in good shape. It's in pretty bad shape.
Butch Davis is 67 coach. He won a national title with Miami. Now, by doing that, he's a great recruiter. He's not good. He's great. But he's also been under scrutiny, under many investigations from Nevin Shapiro to even at North Carolina where they got suspended. I think Butch Davis could get the athletes back there, but how and how long will they be before they would be sanctioned? Would that be even an option?
Well, if they could get him back and if he's not under any cloud right now, he would be a good one.
Yeah, he's sort of hiding down there in South Florida and Florida International right now. So, but I don't know if that would be based on the the situation he's been in. But as a coach, he was one of the most dominant recruiters ever. To me, he assembled the best roster in the history of college football at Miami. When that 2000 Canes team, they had 17 guys on that roster that started that went on to be Pro Bowlers in the NFL. I mean, that team was beyond loaded with talent. And looking, though, at the other ones as we go through here, what about a P.J. Fleck from Minnesota? A good coach. He's done an incredible job, and he wins wherever he goes.
He would be awesome.
He seems to be on a track of, if you look at Urban Meyer, at some of these guys, of what they did. Urban, remember, when he started at Bowling Green, when he went to Utah, when he went back over to Florida, and then he went to Ohio State, it was everywhere he went, he won, but he took stepping stones. It didn't happen overnight. P.J. Fleck, when he was at Western Michigan, undefeated. Sent guys like Corey Davis to the NFL, top 5 picks. Then he goes to Minnesota, a culture that expected if they made a bowl, they're happy, and they're undefeated right now. Everywhere he's gone, they're number 13 in the nation right now.
Yeah, he's a heck of a coach. He got a great record and would be someone that they would all look up to. The only problem they might have there is, he's had a lot of health problems, some health problems. So that would have to be a consideration anyway.
What I think, too, also, he has to be looked at because he has recruited the North. He's been getting the best players from up Michigan up through the areas of Minnesota. Not to say you can't come down here, but if a coach, the next coach at Florida State, their fans, I think, would want somebody that knows this area because there's more talent from Valdosta to places like South Florida. And if you have somebody that knows how to recruit that area, that's really why Taggart got the job. Inevitably, Willie Taggart did not get the job because of his accolades as a coach. And people, everybody on Twitter had an opinion yesterday, everybody out on social media. But a lot of people were saying, well, he never really won that many games at Oregon, all this place. I said, they brought him in because he was supposed to be a really good recruiter and bring back a lot of those great athletes and culturally could fit a lot of these athletes that dominated. And that never really panned out. But Willie Taggart, it was more about recruiting than his record. I think the next coach, that's got to be – how important is that? How vital is that to have a guy that knows the area?
Recruiting. I hate to hear somebody say, you've heard him get on any number of programs and say, well, recruiting is 99.9% of it. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's a big, huge part.
Or Boise State would never beat Florida State, ever, if that was the case.
There's so much more to it than that. We can't even – we don't have time to get into it. But suffice it to say – that recruiting is extremely important, but there are many, many other facets of coaching a football team that are vital to the success of a program. Now, I think he would do a good job. Listen, you don't have to have been from this area to recruit this area. And it'd be fine if he brought a couple of those big linemen in from up north in the Midwest. Bring him into Florida State. I think that would be a plus for him.
Just looking down at my phone right now, what about Mike Leach and the energy of Mike Leach?
Wow, would that be something?
If you want a splash hire, that's a splash hire.
That is.
That would be quite. Matt Campbell at Iowa State has been a guy that has been
good, excellent football coach. But Leach would be. That would have the whole country up in. He is something. What he does is quite fantastic, really.
Well, I'm getting rumors. Actually, while we're texting, one of the guys, my uncle who worked at Sunshine Network, built Sunshine Network, and Fox Sports has a lot of the guys that live in this area. And these are just rumors, and none of this is true, by the way. I want to preface by saying that. But he said that there's a lot of rumblings right now about the people behind the scenes are trying to do what they can to get Bob Stoops. Now, that doesn't mean Bob is going there, but they're going to make a strong effort and a push. That was the first guy I mentioned, but they're going to make a strong effort to say, Bob, look, XFL's nice, but this is your three-time national champion, a program Bobby Bowden is a staple, dominated decades. This is Florida State football here. Derek Brooks, Deion Sanders, Charlie Ward, that they're trying to make that push right now, and we'll see. And they have the Stoops have been in the state of Florida. Remember, he coached at Florida, and his son Mark and all the guys, Mike, Jeff. There was, I think. There's like 8,000 Stoops out there, but the same thing is they have ties to the Florida area and the Panhandle, so he knows how to recruit as well here, if that came down.
Yeah.
So
no doubt.
That's going to be one that is going to be definitely getting a lot of attention. Real quickly before we break, Lane Kiffin, the possibility. You had Lane on the show not too long ago. Lane is, hit the family really well. Didn't you babysit Lane at one point? Monty was your first.
My wife.
Well, not you personally, but the family.
No,
but he would have been too much of a brat. You would have been locked in that room the first time, I'm sure.
Well, what had happened? I gave Monty his first job in pro football.
Yes,
and so and Lane was a little guy.
Could Lane would that be a good hire in your opinion? All right, that's fair enough. Josh Heupel at UCF though, 19-2 in the regular.
Yeah,
game.
He would be a good hire.
And he beat Florida State as a Oklahoma when they won the national title as a quarterback. Brent Venables, you see him ever leaving Clemson?
Well, that's what everybody's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first name I heard was Venables at Auburn. That's what I heard. I don't. There are people that say that he will not leave Clemson, and he's certainly getting paid well enough to stay there. But he's not. Some people realize they're not cut out to be a head coach. He's doing exactly what he wants to do, where he wants to live, family there.
And everybody loves him. I mean, yeah.
He's content. So why put yourself in a situation that could be a hot plate, a boilerplate?
He walks around town and everybody loves his name. Where he could take a look at Chad Morris. Everybody loved Chad Morris at Clemson. Now he hasn't won a game in 2 years at Arkansas, and people want to witch hunt him and get him out of town. Like Willie Taggart, when he was down here before he was coach, I remember sitting at the yacht club. People were walking up, man. He's a nice guy. Willie's a nice, but people were walking up and shaking his hands. We love you, man. The energy, the passion. I remember like it was yesterday. He said, nobody has seen what we're about to unleash with this Gulf Coast offense. And now nobody wanted to see it, I guess. That eventually is the key.
It's a good thing nobody had seen it before.
But now looking as well, they would. A lot of things have changed. Mike Norvell at Memphis, last name here. He's done an incredible job. Big win against.
He's done a great job. All these are names that would be mentioned with most any school. And, I look for one thing I look for. Is there anybody out there with former FSU affiliation that would be available and would fill in all the blanks to be an outstanding head coach? That might be somebody that would have an an inside track. I don't know.
The ones that did are either doing book signings in their 70s and 80s. Mickey Andrews and Bobby Bowden and Chuck Amato, all the guys that they loved are all retired. Mark Richt's name is always mentioned, but I don't know if Mark's last rodeo down at Miami, I don't know, and his health issues too. He just had a heart attack. Had a heart attack, so that's another. But a lot of people have said Mark's the kind of guy of decency, as a man of faith and as a football guy that they would like their son to play for. So that's someone. We'll look at some of the names and we'll continue. I'm sure we'll hear plenty. Everybody's got an opinion, so we'll see at this point. But some of the favorites, Bob Stoops, guys like Brent Venables' name, and also Mike Norvell are names that have been mentioned a few times, and we've heard, and even inside with Kendall Browse. When we come back, we'll talk some more about the games tonight. Monday Night Football, Giants and Cowboys, big rivalry as it gets set to go here tonight, as Jason Witten will be back on Monday Night Football, but as a player, as a player. So back out there. Coming back for more, it's the Talk Football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Dude, it's game day, and I'm fired up that football is back.
I know, but I'm bummed they don't show my favorite team on TV around here.
All right, well, what about that place Calvert's? They're a really cool English pub-style restaurant, and they have a really good drink menu.
Yeah, but what about the game?
Don't worry, they have the NFL Sunday ticket and plenty of TVs, so we can watch any game that we want.
Ooh, I just looked at the menu, and that Abbey Road burger is calling my name.
Calvert's in the Heights Restaurant and Bar, 3102 East Urbana Street, calvertsintheheights.com.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro Shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Highway 29 in Car City.
I'm officially a Vivid Seats Hall of Famer.
A what?
Vivid Seats launched a new app with Vivid Seats Rewards, and I earn credit on every purchase I make through the new Vivid Seats app. The more live events you attend, the more you earn.
Was it hard to join?
Nope. All I had to do was download the Vivid Seats app and use it to buy my tickets. The more you spend through the app, the more credits you earn.
Don't just get any seat. Get a Vivid Seat.
Vivid Seats.
This is what Flo from Progressive sounds like in one of our many hilarious commercials.
And basic motorcycle policies start at just $75 a year. I know, right? Do you think I say I know, right, too often? I do. I know, right? I have to stop, don't I? I know.
And this is what that same commercial sounds like on your motorcycle. Yeah, even our commercials are better on a bike. Progressive keeps you on yours. Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
And welcome back. It is Talk Football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM, each and every weekday from noon to 1 around your lunch break right there. We appreciate you being part of it. You can always weigh in on any of the calls or any of the games right here. How you felt the refs did in the first half of Florida versus Georgia. Already heard that. Whatever you want to talk about here today. And you can weigh in at 850-623-1330, 850-623-1330 on our text line. Coach, we got a few minutes here before the Roll Tide radio show, and I want to talk a little more about the game coming up here tonight. It's Monday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants, a rivalry. I mean, it's a 2-6 team in New York that has had their problems and, have not been healthy. Daniel Jones is now their solidified guy going forward, and he hasn't been terrible. He hasn't looked incredible, but he's done his job. He looks like a rookie that has strides to become something, and that's what I see out of him. Is a guy with talent, and he's not, and it's not. The people around him and that team, they're just not that good of a football team.
He's doing a good job. Listen, this kid is doing an outstanding job with a bad football team.
Yes.
They're not a good football team right now. They're not strong enough up front on either side of the ball. They have no talent around him except for running. They do have a great running back. But other than that, where is it? Name one. It's just not there. They don't have them.
Well, and even dating back, if you look at Brett Favre, if you look at John Elway, you look at guys like Peyton Manning, Troy Aikman. Tom Brady wasn't even playing because he was waiting for Drew Bledsoe, so that's not relevant in this. But all of the guys, I saw a fascinating stat. NFL Hall of Fame quarterbacks over the last 20 years that have been inducted, their rookie season, when it was 16 games, before it was 14, 16-game regular season average record as a starting quarterback was 6-10. And these are Hall of Famers, and that's probably on the high end for a lot of guys. You're not Peyton Manning. He wasn't dominant. Troy Aikman went 1-15. I mean, everybody. When you look at these, it takes a little time to learn the playbook, learn the NFL more than anything, learn the culture of being an NFL football player. So yeah, Jones, he's been serviceable. He's made the plays, and I think he's got a bright. Out of all the rookie quarterbacks, I feel like he's got a future for sure in the NFL this year, compared to watching guys like Dwayne Haskins and some of them. It's sort of the writing's on the wall that eventually he's going to be gone.
Yeah, well, I think it's a little early. I would agree with you, but I think it's a little early on all of them right now. But I do think Daniel Jones, I like what this kid's doing. And, I tell you who they say is a lot like him. Now, this is a little interesting. I just heard this. The projected number 1 draft pick next year, and everybody's talking about diving to get the pick. That's ridiculous. But anyway, they were talking about Tua being the pick. It has now switched to Herbert.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 3 of the 5 people yesterday that they named Herbert as being the guy now instead of Tua.
He looked good. I watched that game against USC.
Now, Herbert, a lot of what he does is a lot like Daniel Jones. So
Dallas win tonight? Better football team?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. If they don't, we'll hear from Jerry Jones tomorrow.
Yeah.
Coach, appreciate it as always. Looking forward to tomorrow and staying around for a segment or two for Roll Tide Radio.
You bet.
All right. For NFL football coach Kay Stevenson, I'm Chad Brillante. Coming up, pretty decent game this week. 1 versus 2, Alabama LSU on Roll Tide Radio, right here, ESPN Pensacola.
Football season has arrived, and ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM 99.1 FM is where the action is. Bringing your high school football every Friday night, UWF football on Saturdays, and the NFL on Sundays. If you would like to partner with ESPN Pensacola as a sponsor or promotional partner, give us a call at 262-6000.
ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. I'm Davis Allen with your sports headlines. It was scary early in the game, but the UWF Argos managed to hang on, defeating the North Greenville Crusaders 17-14, making that their 7th straight win and setting up a matchup against number 1 ranked Valdosta State this Saturday with kickoff scheduled at 6 o'clock. In the NFL, the New England Patriots are unbeaten no more as the Pats fell to the Ravens 37-20 in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson accounted for 3 touchdowns in the win. In other NFL action, the Miami Dolphins earned their first win with a 26-18 victory over the New York Jets. Russell Wilson passed for 5 touchdowns as the Seattle Seahawks edged out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, beating them 40-34 in overtime, and the Los Angeles Chargers stunned the Green Bay Packers 26-11. Other scores in the NFL, the Houston Texans defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars in London 26-3. The Philadelphia Eagles over the Chicago Bears 22-14. The Chiefs take down the Minnesota Vikings 26-23. The Carolina Panthers stay hot under Kyle Allen, winning over the Tennessee Titans 30-20, and the Pittsburgh Steelers managed to take down the Indianapolis Colts 26-24. Tonight on Monday Night Football, they'll be in New York as the Dallas Cowboys will be taking on the New York Giants. The 4-3 Cowboys are first in the NFC East, while the 2-6 Giants are hoping to end their 4-game losing streak. Big news in college football as Florida State is parting ways with head coach Willie Taggart. FSU fired the second-year coach on Sunday, one day after the Seminoles lost to rival Miami. And in the MLB, the Gold Glove Award winners were announced. Colorado Rockies third baseman Nolan Arenado won the award for the 7th straight season, while Kansas City Royals outfielder Alex Gordon won his 7th Gold Glove. And Tampa Bay Rays center fielder Kevin Kiermaier won the Gold Glove for center field for the 3rd time. He won consecutively back in 2015 and 2016. I'm Davis Allen with your sports headlines for ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
There's a lot going on right now, and broadcasters are on the ground covering all of it, bringing you the weather, the traffic, and breaking news, all while entertaining you 24 hours a day. Someone needs to tell you what's going on around the world and in our hometowns. And that someone is us. We are free radio. We are always there. We are broadcasters. Visit wearebroadcasters.com or text radio to 52886 to learn more. Furnished by NAB and this station.
It's time for some straight talk. You know those football players who are all talk, no show? Well, big wireless carriers aren't much different. Well, Straight Talk Wireless doesn't give you the hype, just the savings. For just $45 a month, you'll get the unlimited plan with 25 gigs of high-speed data, then 2G. No contract. All on the same 4G LTE networks as the big guys, but up to half the cost. Savings delivered right to your wallet. Only at Walmart. Savings may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. It's time for some straight talk. You know those football players who are all talk, no show? Well, big wireless carriers aren't much different. Well, Straight Talk Wireless doesn't give you the hype, just the savings. For just $45 a month, you'll get the unlimited plan with 25 gigs of high-speed data, then 2G. No contract. All on the same 4G LTE networks as the big guys, but up to half the cost. Savings delivered right to your wallet. Only at Walmart. Savings may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
Ordering online? Just click and your purchase appears at your doorstep. But the vehicles that move your order, trucks, jets, and ships, create a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. That's why ExxonMobil and Synthetic Genomics are developing algae biofuels that can reduce emissions from all those trucks, jets, and ships by half. The upshot? A future where your deliveries are just as convenient and greener. Learn more at energyfactor.com.
And welcome into the Roll Tide Radio Show right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Chad Brillante here with you. Glad to be hosting with you on a Monday. So much to get to. Both these teams coming off a bye week for a game that is now the game of the century, part 2, as they get set to go. It'll be a 2:30 Central Time kickoff. No shock, it is the CBS game of the week. Number 1 versus number 2. Currently number 1 versus number 2 in the Heisman with Tua and Joe Burrow. And no reason to think that this won't live up to the hype. Both these teams have been electric. Offensively, both have put up incredible numbers. Fun first-round talent all over the field, and it should be a lot of fun. Alabama opening as a 6.5-point, 7-point favorite in the lines right there. The total for a game that, when it was the game of the century, was 9-6 last time they played in 2011. Opened total in this game, 64 points. So they're expecting this to be in the 30s, and it could easily with these offenses. Joining us now, former NFL quarterback coach and somebody that knows a lot about these coaches, these players, and Coach Kay Stevenson, kind enough to join us after his show. Coach, I'm looking at this game, and I hope it lives up to all the hype. I hope LSU, just from a bias standpoint, wins, because then happy wife, happy life. But overall, I'm just saying it's going to be one heck of a football game.
Well, it is going to be one heck of a game. I'll tell you, this is an SEC game. General Neyland's probably flipping over in his grave when he's punt on third down, and if you score 6, you should win. But they're going to be throwing the ball all over the place, both teams, and very proficiently throwing the ball all over the place. Alabama's got the best receiving core in the nation, probably including a number of pro teams. And LSU with Joe Burrow, I think, has been the surprise for a lot of people around the country. But we said earlier on, as Joe Burrow goes, this team will go. And that's where they are right now. And with both teams now with a week off to prepare, it should be a barn burner. I'll tell you, it's I think you said it's like 6-point spread.
6.5 points,
now.
Yeah.
Probably based on two things: the home field advantage of Alabama being in Tuscaloosa, and maybe if there's a chink in the armor anywhere for LSU, it might be their overall defensive production. So those must be the two things that the odds makers are looking at.
So Nick Saban, I don't know if this was to sort of inside smirk at some people when he made this comment, but Wednesday he said it'll be a game time decision. Look, Tom Brady, I laugh at that because Tom Brady has played almost 20 years, and he's been on the IR for almost 20 years with shoulder injury and things like that. They play through the pain. Tua's going to play. Vegas, I guarantee one thing. Las Vegas would not have released a 7-point spread in favor of Alabama if they didn't get some kind of indication from people that get paid a lot higher than we do, sources that those people that make things happen. They would have not put that spread out there if Mac Jones was the starting quarterback. Mac looks serviceable. He's a good. You don't go to Alabama if you're not a good player. But Mac Jones, if he was the starting quarterback straight up against Joe Burrow, and they expected him to play, or if at any point there was any indication that Tua was 50-50, they would wait on putting the spread out there because, and some sports books still might have it, but there is no way in snowballs, that they would ever think that it's a 50-50 shot and put this spread out. Tua will play on Saturday.
Well, I think it's, quite frankly, they know it's going to be a Tua versus Burrow. And the point spread went out. You could see that. You're right. I don't think there's any way in the world they would put it out if there was any doubt that either one of those quarterbacks wouldn't play. So,
because if Mac Jones started, I know they're in Tuscaloosa, but if Jones started against Burrow straight up with that offense firepower, I'd make LSU probably a 3-point favorite. I feel like
I don't know, Mac Jones. I've got a lot more confidence in Mac Jones. Now Tua is outstanding. He's over the top. I'll give him that. And I have a lot more confidence in Alabama with Tua, but I have an awful lot of confidence in Mac Jones and what he's done. And I'll tell you, he's a good quarterback. Alabama's in good shape. If something should happen to Tua, Alabama's in good shape. Now, what the point spread may be with him in there, I'm not sure. But in Tuscaloosa, with him playing, with everything on the line, the tradition behind this, and Alabama, I don't know.
And for the people that throw out facts that actually, yes, it's accurate, but it is fit to mold their conversation piece. I saw 3 people today in college football shows. Some people I respect, so I'm not even going to say who they are, but they said, remember last time when he got hurt in that game against Georgia? Same high ankle sprain. Different ankle, but same exact thing. He had tightrope procedure on the ankle, getting ready to go. Coach, they said he was out 4 weeks. Now, based on that, he wouldn't play this week, or he'd be about 3 days before that date, because he was out on October 19th was the date he went out. Now, this is the thing. He had 4 weeks. He had the entire month of December because their first game wasn't until the college football playoff began. He didn't have to rush back there. There's a different story. There was no point of putting him around Christmas time with the family when he was sitting around in Tuscaloosa, and because I think his family now lives there, that they had to rush him back. They need him in this game. So for a number, it was 4 weeks last time. So everyone goes, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
No, it's because he had 4 weeks. He doesn't have 4 weeks if they want him to play.
Well,
against
that's
LSU.
the normal. That would be the low side. Normally, what we would expect with a high ankle sprain. But again, this is being treated radically different. The other was treated radically different than high ankle sprains have been treated in the past. So he's going to be ready to go much sooner. And they do have some past history on that by virtue of the fact of how he responded to the last treatment. And keep in mind, that last one was on his plant foot. This is not. He doesn't have to plant and put the pressure on it to throw off this foot. It's a right foot. So when the left was more serious because that is his plant foot.
Coach, do you feel like you're going to have a quarterback that is they're going to build a game plan, and they don't have to linger too far off, because one thing they have is speed all over that field and athletes. I mean, you can get the ball in Waddle, Ruggs, Smith. You can go to any of those guys. Obviously, the number 1, Jerry Jeudy, all those guys that make big plays. But do you believe that you're going to have game plans designed not to have him have to get outside the pocket and run more screen passes, more opportunities like that in this game?
Yeah, well, I don't think they really plan on living with him outside the pocket anyway. It's throw from the pocket. Play action. Now they may move him a little bit, and but when they move him, they move the pocket. If you've noticed that, their whole offensive line will slide, and they'll slide the pocket. So he's basically keep him in the pocket, let him step up to throw. He does a great job of that. So yes, to answer your question, yeah, I think that'll be the majority by far.
Looking at this game, Coach, we're looking at 1 versus 2. The conversation about 2 teams that have not only been dominant, they have beaten their opponents in ways where they're pulling their starters at halftime against conference opponents. Tigers have averaged 47 points a game. The Crimson Tide, 49 points a game. And the fact that they both have defenses that can make plays and game changers all over the field is something that, this was the last time these teams played as 1 and 2 was 2011, but that was a completely different roster. I think Alabama's defense was better then. When I say this, they're both great, but I think their defense was better, and LSU had not figured out a quarterback yet to be consistent. It was Jordan Jefferson was their quarterback at that time. This is a completely different dynamic and completely different teams when they meet this week.
Oh yeah, by far, totally different is absolutely right. This has no identity crisis with the ones before at all.
No, not at all. Now, when it comes down to a field goal, then there might be some of those moments in the big game. But overall, we're not expecting. If it's 9-6, it probably will be with about 6 minutes to go in the first quarter. If that's the case, there's been missed extra points and a lot of offensive game plans. So you're not probably going to see that score at all. Looking at the game itself, I look at it and say that Alabama should be a favorite at home. But in a game like this, the way the confidence that you saw with Joe Burrow and the way he played in matchups, I think the biggest one we can relate was, remember that it wasn't a neutral site game. It was actually at Texas right there. The game when they played the Longhorns was in Austin. Do you see that as, that's a great comparison to a environment that you're going to be in. And Tuscaloosa, Bryant-Denny's a little bigger than Texas, but it's rowdy, it's loud, and there's going to be a lot of energy. So I think that was a good test for a guy like Joe Burrow, and he doesn't need it at this point. He's already played in a lot of big games. I think this one is going to be the biggest that he's seen, though, and that's a pretty obvious statement. But this is the biggest game of his career, and it's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, there's nothing like the game at Tuscaloosa and Texas. There's somewhat of a comparison there, but Alabama or Tuscaloosa is a much tougher venue. It's much larger, and more the sound stays in that stadium more than it does at Texas. And keep in mind now, Burrow, that was the first game of the year when he played there. He's a much better quarterback now than he was the first game of the year. So from that standpoint, it's much different. And I always, a barometer, Chad, some people don't really look at, but I'll tell you it's significant. The University of Florida had the football over 16 minutes, more than LSU. In that ball game, and LSU still won the ball game by more than 14 points. That's putting up a lot of offense in a short period of time. You can't do that without a quarterback who's hot as you know what. I mean, he's got to be hot to put up that many points and to outscore a team when they give up a whole quarter. Basically, like Florida played a quarter without LSU being on the field.
And this game, a lot of ties, obviously. Nick Saban, former LSU coach who won a title there. And, if he would have gone anywhere else in the country, that probably would have been talked about as like we talk with Urban with Florida and Ohio State. But when he went to Alabama, that sort of went, shh, don't say that. Don't mention LSU anymore. Yeah, pretty much anyone else would still talk about those days when he won a national title and what he did at LSU. But I think that now you look at this matchup, he knows a lot of the same people, walks around town. Nick knows, I mean, this is a city when he was in Baton Rouge, wasn't a long stay, but he knows a lot of the people, knows a lot of the system, and knows a lot of their good alumni, a lot of the people that will be coming to that game. So should be fun, and looking forward to this matchup. College football is exciting. I looked at the games over the next couple of weeks, and the matchups that we're getting. Fascinating matchups coming up here. These are the biggest of big games. Obviously, LSU-Alabama is one that we're going to talk a ton about. The games right now out of the Big Ten, the Ohio State Buckeyes will get set to go here for a game against Penn State coming up on the 23rd. That's in a couple weeks. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a top 5 matchup.
Georgia-Auburn, and just so many. You're right.
It's going to be fun over the next couple weeks to watch some of the biggest matchups. It got started, the Florida Gators with a tough 24-17 loss to the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia pretty much had that game won throughout. There were some calls that Gator fans don't like, but Georgia established themselves as the better team in that one. We'll see if LSU and Alabama leave us with that same type of feeling. But most people right now, outside of maybe a few fan bases, feel that this is going to be the type of game where the winner of this game is right there in the driver's seat for a shot at the national title. And when we come back, we'll also discuss, because even in a loss, it doesn't mean anybody is eliminated. This is not an elimination game, as some try to make him out to be. They can lose this game and still have a shot to get back to a national title. We've seen it before when Alabama lost, and then they came back and won the national title in this exact same scenario when it was 1-2 in the exact same week into the season. We're coming back for more. It's the Roll Tide Radio, brought to you by Gordon Auto Wholesale. When everybody else says no, Gordon Auto Wholesale says yes. Check them out right there, 2 blocks south of Airport on Old Palafox. Give them a call today at 479-9200. They're open up all the way until 5:30 today. Gordon Auto Wholesale. No credit, bad credit. They'll take care of it. Don't sweat it. Coming back for more right here on Roll Tide Radio.
You wanted a toy at the store when you were a kid. Mom said no. You wanted a date as a teenager. The homecoming queen said no. Now, as an adult, you want a car, and all the dealers keep saying no. Finally, there's someone in Pensacola who will say yes. It's Gordon Auto Wholesale on Old Palafox, just 1 block south of Airport Boulevard. Now with a huge selection of third-row SUVs in stock. No credit, bad credit, repos, no problem. Say yes to Gordon Auto Wholesale. Call them at 850-479-9200, 479-9200, and hear yes right now.
There's nothing like eating outside in downtown Pensacola. You know, with shoppers walking by your sidewalk table, checking out your food, and even bumping into your chair.
Hey!
Except at Scopolo's new outdoor patio, your safe haven from the sidewalk. This covered oasis along Palafox is your place for sports with TVs, exclusive outdoor menu with meaty food flights, vegan bites, and comfort food and cocktail with your 4-legged best friend. Scopolo's Outdoors, 600 South Palafox in downtown Pensacola. Saturdays are meant for sports, so Sports Call with Davis and Justin is here to kick off your sports weekend.
College football, the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, the PGA Tour. If it's happening on Saturday, we're talking about it.
Plus, weekly interviews with the players, coaches, and fellow journalists.
Be a part of the show by calling or texting in at 623-1330.
Sports Call with Davis and Justin every Saturday from 11 to 1 on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Sports Call with Davis and Justin.
Every single game, I have been wrong. I have been dead wrong. I have been so wrong.
Top sports stories, the biggest games.
With Houston's lineup and their roster, you know that they're all really dedicated. The chemistry is there, and they're hard to beat.
The weekends are made for sports, so catch Sports Call with Davis and Justin every Saturday from 11 to 1 on Pensacola's home for sports. ESPN Pensacola, 1330, FM 99.1.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back. It is Roll Tide Radio right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Alabama getting set to go here for a pretty big game, 1 versus 2. Some call it game of the century. They did that before, but why not? Every week, everything's the biggest in everything, you know. And this one, at least this one has some backing to it.
We got new quarterbacks every week that become Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
You know?
Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to get a raise at Miami now, I'm sure. He's the next. They don't need a quarterback anymore. That's
Lamar Jackson's most valuable player in the league this week.
Matt Moore now is fighting with Patrick Mahomes for his job.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, look, it's just always fun to go down the path of trying to find, every week somebody is this great player and great quarterback. The one thing we do know is Baker Mayfield's in a lot of trouble right now. It's getting worse. The grave is starting
It is. But, there's still a way to pull out of this. I really hope for the standpoint of their organization. I hope they can pull out of it. I think they can.
2-6 right now. It's been a tough start. Denver's a good defense, and they've played well, but another tough loss for a team that had a shot. They were driving down the field. It was 24-19, and Mayfield on 4th and 4 can't complete the pass. Odell Beckham a little upset. Wasn't wearing to watch this week at least, but overall, looking at the games with Alabama and in this game, Coach, I want to ask you the question because you've been there as a coach, having to deal with kids, and also as a player, getting ready for an anticipated matchup from a health standpoint on the body. It's obviously a good thing to have this much time, but having 2 weeks to prepare for a game that everybody in the country has been talking about really at the beginning of the season, but then knowing that now that they're 1 and 2 in the polls, and actually both polls have LSU and Alabama, and the other one has Alabama and LSU, so which makes it even more intriguing because everybody thinks that these teams are that equal. I look at this and say, is there something that can lead to some problems, though, for athletes to have this much time to get ready, besides the obvious maybe a couple late nights at the bar?
No, let me tell you, more important than that, and that's always a problem to a certain extent. You got to have an organization, a disciplined organization intact that will dissuade any of your athletes from doing that. Otherwise, you can't play in that game or any other game. But that would not be the biggest problem to me. Most of what would happen is good. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you heal up, kids heal up, and you have a chance to go over a lot of the things that you've been doing wrong and fill some of those holes. You get a little depth, help with some of your depth because you get those kids better ready to play. You can do early. You can get them up on the game plan early. Now, the one thing that can happen that could hurt you a little bit is some coaches decide, well, we got this extra time, we can do twice as much. And all of a sudden you're putting in so much offense and defense that they become confused. They're not playing as naturally where they don't have to think about it. They can just react and play. They got to do too much thinking. So if there's one bad aspect of a long 2-week or a week layoff, would be that coaches tend to overload them with information and with different strategies and plays, and they're confused going in.
Looking at this game, coaching, let's go through some of the differences. What Joe Brady has done. It's a name that isn't talked about because he's not even the coordinator. Steve Esminger is, but he works directly with Joe Burrow and what he's done as really a quarterback guru, and all those names are thrown around, but he's really good at his job. That's all you have to know. Joe Brady has come in and worked directly with Burrow. I know you've talked and gave him high praise, but how vital, when you look at the coaching staffs in this game, how important is it to know that you've got a coach in Nick Saban, what he's done, and then a coach in Ed Orgeron that always in these games usually has not come through in the past, but this year just seems a little different around Baton Rouge and now going into this game.
I think it's totally different. And, Coach O, his normal MO is play defense, run the football, be sound on special teams, don't give them anything, and just play it tough down to the fourth quarter and out-tough another team. That's what he's done all of his life. And I know a lot of those coaches. I've been around most of the coaches that I've been around or been associated with feel that way. It's changed with Brady in the ball game now. I think it's opened it up. Look what we're doing. Even Coach O, just like Saban too. This was an eye opener for Saban because when he made that change. That he made and put 2 in at quarterback at halftime of a championship game. That was made on the fact that he had decided that he had to throw the football to be effective. That's how Tua became the quarterback there. And I think this now, Coach O has now understood totally that the more offense we can put up there, the better it's going to be for our football team, not worse. And as I said, this would fly in the face of Bobby Dodd and Coach Nealon and probably Coach Bryant and a lot of other people. Bryant would accept it more than anybody.
Coach, you know a lot of the people within the committee and are people that are, of the caliber, have been around the game, and you have, when you talk about football, you understand it. So you could be somebody on that committee and nobody, they would respect the heck out of your choices as well. When you look right now out of the players in this game, we both are, I think to me, they're 2 of the top teams, if not for sure right now as of today, top 4 teams in the nation, correct? I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Absolutely.
I mean, Ohio State and Clemson, to me, are the other 2. And then Georgia, I think, is very close, but they've shown some signs of weakness offensively with their wide receiving core. Now, I look at this and say, if they lose this game, there's a really good possibility because Oklahoma really opened up the door, and Oregon at the beginning of the season, I know we're dating well back yonder, but them losing by 1 point to Auburn, those 2 teams, Oregon losing to Auburn and Oklahoma losing to Kansas State currently, have opened up the shot at a 1-loss non-conference champion, even if they lose this game, to go out and win the rest and then sit there at home at 11-1 and wait for that call. If you're in that committee, and we've talked about it because we feel like it needs to be changed. We love to see an 18 playoff for this reason, because imagine leaving a conference champion out with 1 loss to put another team that didn't even make the conference championship, even though in your heart you know you're doing the right thing because that team is better. And that's a tough decision. They made it before, but Coach, would you be okay with that if an LSU in Oklahoma or an LSU in Oregon and one of those teams is sitting there and the other one had just won their conference championship, or LSU or Alabama are sitting at home in this game, to say at the end of the season they deserve one of those spots?
Yeah, because the object of this committee is to pick the 4 best teams, not a beauty contest, okay? And a 1-loss, now the one you may have trouble with is Oregon, because they've continued to come on and on and on. And they lost 1 ball game by 1 point to an SEC school who has played relatively close, we know, with LSU. So when you start comparing there, it's going to be tough to leave Oregon out. But when you see this ball game, if these 2 teams play a close game and a 2 or 3 point, 1, 2 or 3 point win is associated with this game, I think the other is going to be one of the four. Because you're talking about the two best who are going to be playing each other. So you say, my gosh, Alabama won, but they only won by 2 points. And here's LSU sitting there, and if LSU doesn't fumble or if they get a bad break on a penalty, they win the ball game. So we're sitting there, just say you and I are sitting there, and we're looking at them compared to all these other teams around the country. We say, no, LSU's better. Or if the same had happened with Alabama, we'd say, no, Alabama's better. So, no, I would have no problem with that at all.
You know, and I think there's a couple things working in Oregon's favor if that happens. And I watched them play USC this week. That's a good football team with Justin Herbert. I mean, Mario Cristobal has developed they're physical. They got speed up front. Oregon's always had two things. They have big, tall, lengthy linemen that are good for a spread, quick offense. And they also have guys out there on the defense that we've seen in the past, like Deion Jordans and guys like that can get pressure on the quarterback. They got big, physical, nasty, 6'7", 270 type DNs that get to the quarterback. Now, the difference is their team is physical this year. I watched them play against a number of games this year. And also I think they've proven, too, on a national scale, even though they lost the game, they were winning most of that game and took the breaks. They put their foot off the gas pedal,
right.
And they were beating Auburn for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah,
and Auburn's legit in the way they compete across the board right now. They just lost to LSU 23-20 in a game that they could have won that. So I think that gains the respect factor. But here's the two biggest things. Rob Mullen, the athletic director at Oregon, is the head of the BCS, or not the BCS, but the College Football Playoff Committee. The Oregon's president or athletic director is the head. Now, he will have to leave the room if they vote, but we're talking for a few minutes. You don't think if there's a chance where Oregon, because it's pretty inevitable Oregon's going to have one loss the way they're playing right now. If Oregon wins the Pac-12 and that comes down to it, you don't think for 2 seconds that Rob Mullen, he might leave the room when they're picking, but he's all around that committee. And there's another thing, too. I wonder if, and you could say what you want. People can do what they want with their money. But remember, Phil Knight, who owns Nike, I wonder how many seats and how many extra commercials might be in the college football playoff if Oregon finds a way in. And we can say what you want about that, but the money and the power that Oregon has to dictate what could be there, and what, like we said, it wouldn't be a complete hoax because they'd be a champion compared to a non-champion, and they'd also be a team that's gained the respect of the country over time. They're not a fluff, just one of those scoring. They're not Minnesota right there. They're not
played
Baylor.
one more football game, too, keep in mind.
Yeah.
With the conference championship, they play one more game.
And that'd be the easiest way to say it is, look, they're conference champions. They've proven their worth. They go outside. Oregon always goes outside of their conference and plays competition.
That's why I say Oregon would be the toughest call. But would you ask if I would have problems with Alabama and LSU if they played a close ball game? I think they're the best two teams in the country right now.
Yes. I
think Ohio State is probably third, and I'm not sure Oregon's not fourth over Clemson. Clemson's got the easiest path because they don't play anybody.
It's true.
For crying out loud. So they've got an easy path there, but are they one of the four best? I mean, if somebody asked me to put my name on the line for that, I couldn't do it right now.
The one thing Clemson has in their favor, in a big moment, you got a coach that's been there and won it. You've got a defensive coordinator that brings usually great game plans to the big game. And the third part that's working with them is you got a quarterback and a running back who are going to be top 10 picks in the draft one day, and especially the quarterback, he's proven that he can win in the big game. So those three things, but you're right, the overall Clemson team, though, is not last year's team. They are not looking like last year's team.
Everything you just talked about is supposition to a certain extent.
Yes, yeah.
That's not what the committee is voting on. Also, the fact that
did I say Oregon or Clemson, by the way?
You were talking about Clemson.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And the other thing that would be in Clemson's favor is they won it last year, and they have not lost a game since. So how do you keep the champion out of the game, out of the playoffs?
I think it's pretty clear. Yeah, sorry, Coach. Go ahead.
But anyway, despite all that, and you make some good points, but despite all that, it's, Chad, who are the best four teams in the country right now? Who do you think? If Ohio State played Clemson, who do you think would win? If Oregon played Clemson, who do you think would win? Okay, so it's tough. That's why I said I think Oregon would be a real tough out.
Clemson, to me, and even this conversation, because it is Roll Tide Radio talking about Alabama and LSU, Clemson is pretty clear that because of how bad, not just bad, but how bad the ACC has been this year, it would be where Clemson's pretty much, if they win, they're in. They're not going to leave the undefeated national champion back in that. Remember, too, they're going to beat South Carolina, which they will. And when they beat South Carolina, remember that South Carolina that beat Georgia, that will get some brownie points as well for them doing that. Now, Clemson, if they win all out and they go undefeated, 13-0 after winning the conference title, they're in. They're going to get one of the four spots, obviously guaranteed. They're not going to leave Clemson out as the defending champions that went unbeaten. That's
probably, but to me, if they do that without taking into consideration, I want to see how Oregon finishes the year.
Mm-hmm.
They great game against Washington this past weekend. Let's see how they finish up. If they blow out the conference championship game, I'm gonna tell you, I think it's gonna be tough.
But if Clemson loses a game, they're out. I mean, that's the thing is if they go 11-1, they go to the bottom. They go to what we saw with, and even Oklahoma, because of how they lost to a Kansas State team, that because of the way they play defense, which is not much, that dropped them way back. And that's like, if a Penn State beats Ohio State by a point, both of those teams are still going to be in the conversation just because it's such a physical. And that's the difference. And that's the thing is it's going to be very intriguing because there's a good possibility, 100% possibility that LSU and Alabama, one of these teams, is leaving with a loss. And what that's going to open up the door for is a one-loss LSU or Alabama, if they finish out, to be in that talk with Oregon, Oklahoma, with all these other one-loss teams that are going to be fighting for spots. This is going to be a very intriguing year. There's a lot of football left, and all we know is this one should be a really good game. Coach, we always appreciate your time, and looking forward to talking to you tomorrow, my friend.
Oh, always look forward to it, Chad.
All
See
right.
you then.
Appreciate it. Coach K. Stevenson will join us on Talk Football with Coach K. We're coming back more with Roll Tide Radio. It is brought to you by Gordon Auto Wholesale. When everybody else says no, Gordon Auto Wholesale says yes. Look, you might not be able to afford it. Maybe you are one of those people that does your taxes late and you just filed the extension October 15th and you have to write that. Guess what? Your car breaks down and you're like, crap, I have to make a decision. You don't. You don't have to have any credit down, nothing. Don't sweat it. You can pay that back. They'll put together a great financial plan for anybody down there. That's what Eddie has been doing. He's a lifelong Alabama fan and a guy that will take care of you. 479-9200 is the number. 2 blocks south of Airport on Old Palafox Street. Gordon Auto Wholesale says yes.
Gordon Auto Wholesale says yes. No credit, bad credit, bankruptcies, no problem. Over 250 vehicles in stock. Third row SUVs and trucks. Everyone's approved. Gordon Auto Wholesale is the bank and can help you get into a nice, clean vehicle. Carfax checked. Need a new car? Gordon Auto says yes. Can't buy one from the other dealers? Come see Gordon Auto Wholesale on Palafox, just 2 blocks south of Airport. Or call 479-9200. That's 479-9200.
Rally Up Pensacola. Harley-Davidson of Pensacola Bike Rally starts Thursday. 4 days of motorcycles, vendors, music, food, and fun. Ride out to Harley-Davidson of Pensacola this Thursday for live music from ADD, food for purchase from Timberley's British Eatery, and Harley's Angels serving free beer. The ride ends Sunday with a bike wash. Fall is here, but riding season is not over. Rally Up Pensacola for the Harley-Davidson of Pensacola Bike Rally this Thursday through Sunday. Harley-Davidson of Pensacola. Let's ride.
Tonight at 10 Eastern on CNBC, the series premiere of Back in the Game.
How much do you think you made your entire career?
About 200-something million.
I'm Alex Rodriguez. Remember Evander Holyfield? Today, his fortune is gone.
Trusted people.
Now that I'm retired from baseball, I want to give back by helping ex-athletes and entertainers get back on their feet.
I kind of feel that everything is too late.
Enough with the excuses.
From executive producers Alex Rodriguez and Michael Strahan.
This is a fresh start.
Back in the Game. Series premiere tonight, 10 Eastern. CNBC. Get yours.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
Alabama, stand up. 205 for the Crimson Tide. T-Town to your town.
And welcome back. It is Roll Tide Radio right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Chad Brillante with you here as the Alabama Crimson Tide get set to go for a pretty big game this week. Pretty decent. They're taking on the LSU Tigers. If you're looking for somewhere to watch the game, Pensacola Bama Club always has a good group over at Seville. They'll be down there as well. Really, you don't have to go far to hear Alabama fans anywhere. I mean, but Captain Fun Beach Club always has a good place as well with Bama score shots. And all over town, if you're looking for a fun time, there's going to be a lot of fans out for this one. For LSU fans, there's going to be a lot of people over at Shooter's Bar, Cordova Lane, Steve Reynolds, and the folks over there do an incredible job. He was my first ever sponsor, and lucky to call him as a friend. What he does for the community, if people go down there, Cordova Lanes and Steve and Shooter's Bar, they are just awesome people. And, somebody that has been a man of faith. We've talked and prayed, and I look at him as family. So that's a place right there where, if you, as a Bama fan, you might. You can go out and bowl and have some cocktails, but there's going to be a lot of purple and gold out there at their watch party for that one. Looking at the Alabama Crimson Tide coming into this game, some of the quick stats. This is a team that really doesn't need to be broken down from a record standpoint or stats. We know how badly they've dominated. But having this week off and the latest on Tua, I'm not going to ask Saban. I'm not calling him. But the latest on Tua since his injury back on October 19th in the second quarter against Tennessee. Right now, he will have 3 weeks pretty much of recovery time. And at this point, we're just past the 2-week mark. And when you have that tightrope surgery, here's a couple things working in his favor. He plays for Alabama, so he has a lot of resources and places he can go, especially knowing that Dr. James Andrews, Dr. Jimmy right there, who works, obviously everybody, if you're from here, or even if you're not, you've probably heard of the Andrews Institute. Look, if you can't go far around here without trying the grits of yaya at a fish house, knowing what Andrews Institute is, and spending a week and people talking about Blue Angels. They come down, and they're actually been flying every week. It was a sweet flyover yesterday in about 55-degree weather overlooking a sweet sunset on Pensacola Beach, about as cool as it gets. But you don't have to go far without knowing those things. Cat Country, seeing them around, 98.7, the CMA Music Station of the Year. Wherever you are, you know that you have a lot of passionate fans in football. And having Andrews Institute right there and being able to work getting the reports in Birmingham right down the road is huge. Now, an ankle injury is something that there's not too much the doctors can do. You got to wait. It's all I've got one ligament left in my right ankle right now. And when I was playing basketball, caught a rebound, went to turn down the court for a play as a point guard, and realized my body was telling me yes, but my foot was telling me no. All of a sudden, I could not move. I went to go, and the foot just, and that was not fun. I actually got the nickname Walking Wounded, and that stuck. It wasn't really a fun name like Smiley or anything like that, but Walking Wounded. And I remember looking at that moment and saying, there's really nothing you can do. You're going to have to wait, be on crutches, maybe the boot, get some time. In about 2 or 3 days, from the standpoint is when they're really going to start at least testing him to get out there and be able to move around and do some things. But right now, when Nick Saban went out there and said he'll be a game time decision on Wednesday, that somebody ran back to AL.com or Rammer Jammer or Roll Tide or anywhere, all the different sources that cover the Alabama Crimson Tide across the entire Southeast, Saturday down south. Anyone was like, oh my goodness, did that just game time decision? The game time decision is what color, will he wear black eyeshadow or not? Will he wear a visor? What cleats will he wear? That's the only thing, because he's going to play. He's going to get on the field and play. Tua's not going to be sitting out in this one. I mean, I could be wrong, but the biggest indicator is that Vegas has already released the spread. Release the spread. That moment right there, pretty much somebody indicated, okay, he's going to come back. We already knew from when it happened. Anybody that follows the game or be around there knows that there was a really good shot he was going to come back anyway. But I don't think they would have released that knowing if Mac Jones, if there was a 50-50, or even probably 70-30. This had to be somewhere 90-10. And I'd put it more like 95-5. He will find a way. Now, is it going to be 100%? No, it's not going to be 100% regardless. There's going to be some lingering effects. But, from mobility standpoint, putting pressure on it. And this is a completely different ankle, too. Two things I want to make clear. Completely different ankle than the one he injured last year. And also, for the timetable of recovery, when people said it was 4 weeks, it took him 4 weeks to come back. It took him 4 weeks to come back last year, which is at the high end. Between 2.5 is really pushing it, and 4 weeks is pretty much, it should be back 100%. That's why it didn't look like they were running. Remember, they were also running plays with him last year against Clemson in the college football playoff games where he was running option plays. I mean, they had him outside back to being 100%. Because of that time frame, though, you had the entire month of Christmas, the entire month of the holidays to get ready for that game. They don't have that luxury this time. They need him in this game. If any game they need him, it is this game. Auburn's good, but Auburn's a defensive grinder. You could play a Mac Jones and nobody would be shocked in like a 24-13 type game. It's at Auburn, but nobody would be shocked at that kind of score. You have to have the offensive firepower. You cannot play old school Alabama, beat it down football. The over-under said it's 64 points for a reason in this game. Based on the spread and the over-under, they're seeing this score. They're looking right now at 35-28, 35-29, that type of score. So they're expecting some points to be put up. And our mindsets want to take us back to all, because it wasn't just one, but every year, even last year when Joe Burrow was on the field, and even last year when you had Tua, because this isn't the first chance for this rodeo. They've played before, but the offenses are different. The way they're clicking, the way that they're getting prepared is completely different than last year's game. But last year when they played, you still have two coaches, as Coach K was talking about. You still have two coaches when they meet that know each other very well. But their mindset is more of a defense, run first, time of possession, win that battle, play that. But it's changed. The coordinators have taken over the spread. They both realize that they don't have good players. They have very special quarterbacks. 1 and 2 in the Heisman. That's why we had the conversation. I was talking to Eric Vadrine, who joins me as a co-host on the show, and played college basketball right there in Louisiana. Grew up an LSU fan. But he's a guy that, he was saying, hey, you remember the last time we played the most anticipated matchup, it was 1 and 2. And I compared it to this one. I said there was one difference, though. In this one, it's not only 1 and 2, it's also 1 and 2 for the Heisman right now. So this is bigger, from a standpoint of what the players, what the coaches are thinking right now. Outside of those individuals, that's an individual award. 100 times to 1 if, what happened last year when Tua lost the Heisman to Kyler Murray after a tough week and really lost it because of the college football, that SEC title game. But if you look at that matchup when they played against Oklahoma, 100 times, 1,000,000 times to 1, every fan would say, okay, we'll give you the Heisman if our team wins against your team. Nobody would have been rooting like, we wanted Tua to win the Heisman, but if we lost to Oklahoma, we wouldn't care. Nobody ever said that. If you do, shame on you. Terrible fan. Unless you're Tua's parents. Be like, I really want him to win. But in this case right here, this is going to be a game where whoever wins this game is going to take that page. And now that Taylor and Wisconsin, they've lost a few games, Ohio State's more of the conventional across-the-board team instead of just one individual. You have a legit shot right now, although Chase Young is nasty. But if you look right now, this game it has so many storylines to it. And has a storyline that there might be part 2 to this. Because there's a very good shot, even if they lose, that one of these teams can come back. And we're looking forward to it as if you're a team like LSU, you've gone through the core. All you've had to do is play, let me see, Texas, Florida, Mississippi State. Well, that's one. And then Auburn. Out of their last pretty much, they've already played some huge games this year. Alabama, not so much. Their gauntlet is usually at the end with LSU, Auburn, some of those games. But I'm telling you, they're also Alabama. Every week, they're fine. And in this game, a 7-point spread to open up. We're going to keep an eye on it, as I'm sure it'll move in favor of LSU. But also a lot of people were looking at that the same way with Georgia. When that spread was moving, it started right around 6, moved down to about 4.5, 5 by kickoff. And remember, Georgia won by 7. Now, they actually won the game by more than 7 throughout most of the game, but the end result was 7. It wouldn't shock anybody at all if Alabama beats anybody by a touchdown. But in this game, it should be one that the health of Tua and the offense, you are not going to shut them out like you did last year. Give them a goose egg at home in Baton Rouge. That will not happen. I guarantee that will not happen with this offense. Can't guarantee anyone. I just lied to you. But I'm very confident that will not happen. When we come back, we'll hear from Nick Saban. We'll talk a little more. Monday morning quarterback at Birmingham. He always has a nice conversation, a little chat. And we're going to hear from the head coach looking to make another run at history. Coming back right here. It is Roll Tide Radio, brought to you by Gordon Auto Wholesale. When everybody else says no, they say yes. No credit, bad credit. They can put you in the car of your dreams. We're coming back for more right here on ESPN Pensacola.
You wanted a toy at the store when you were a kid. Mom said no. You wanted a date as a teenager. The homecoming queen said no. Now, as an adult, you want a car, and all the dealers keep saying no. Finally, there's someone in Pensacola who will say yes. It's Gordon Auto Wholesale on Old Palafox, just 1 block south of Airport Boulevard. Now with a huge selection of third-row SUVs in stock. No credit, bad credit, repos, no problem. Say yes to Gordon Auto Wholesale. Call them at 850-479-9200, 479-9200, and hear yes right now.
Algae. That murky green stuff may not seem very useful, but it could be the future of energy. That's why ExxonMobil and Synthetic Genomics are developing biofuels from algae, so that the trucks, ships, and planes that drive our economy could one day run on algae biofuels with half the greenhouse gas emissions of today's fuels, keeping transportation humming while cutting emissions. Learn more at energyfactor.com.
At AutoZone, we're all about giving you more ways to get the most out of your ride, no matter the road. With our free AutoZone Loan-A-Tool program, you can choose from over 100 specialty tools, borrow the one you need, and get the job done right, all while saving precious time and money. And you can save even more with our great deals, like 5 quarts of Pennzoil high-mileage motor oil and an STP oil filter for just $28.99. Visit us at AutoZone.com and start your job fast. Deposit required. Restrictions apply.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Talk football every day with Pensacola's own Coach K.
Credit a great performance by Garoppolo. And I love the way he throws the football. He's got all the things going for him.
Every weekday, noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1. Welcome to ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1. Pensacola's home to the best talk in sports, new and improved. We are ESPN Pensacola, 1330 and FM 99.1.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
Rammer, jammer, yellow hammer, give 'em hell, Alabama. LSU, more like LSU. It ain't gonna happen twice. Rammer, jammer, yellow hammer, give 'em hell, Alabama. LSU, more like LSU. Gonna kick your butt this time.
I know there's going to be repercussions for me playing that, but hey, it's the Roll Tide Radio Show, so we'll go with that. R.I.P. Josh Gant passed away, sang this song. Had some fun, and I've got my hand on the trigger button, too, in case there's just something like out of nowhere yelled like Big Papi after the Boston Marathon. So it seemed like we're good. We're good. Okay. As Alabama LSU gets set for a huge game this week, Chad Brillante with you here. It's Roll Tide Radio. A few minutes left as Nick Saban is obviously somebody that isn't going to give you a ton in the media. And now when you have the biggest game of the year right in your face, and it's not 100% at this point whether Tua is going to be back, high 90s to me. It is something where he is obviously going to get sick of talking about it. He shared an update. This is about an hour ago of what happened with Nick Saban as he got set to go. This was at the press conference an hour ago as he talked a little bit about the health of Tua and what is going on. So here's what Nick Saban had to say. Coming up here in just a second. Alabama and 7-point favorite in the matchup. It'll be a 2:30 kickoff on Saturday, so we'll make sure to have that as well. Nothing like about to get the clip for you and then just like a fun pop-up. So this is all rambling, by the way. Yes, I am playing the clip. So here is the clip coming up from Nick Saban in just a few seconds from now, if this ever actually does play. Look at now, I clicked off it and actually just played. Here we go. All right, here we go.
Focus and preparation on things that we wanted to do to try to improve and get better. Players had a few days off with fall break here, so we're actually looking forward to, getting back to work today. Going to be playing, what is the number one team in the nation, who's playing at a very high level right now, and they're very explosive on offense, and still have one of the best defensive teams in the country. I think our focus needs to be on attention to detail, doing the little things right. Trying to execute the plan against what has been a very good team in terms of how they do things, whether it's on offense, defense, or special teams. We've had a lot of great games with these guys. I think everybody's been ranked in the top 20 since 2007. It's kind of become a rivalry game because of the quality of the programs, and I think Ed has done a really, really good job with this team this year. They're very efficient in the passing game. Joe has done a really, really good job at quarterback. Totally different offensive scheme than what they've played in the past in terms of have capability to create balance in their offense with a really good runner and a good offensive line. But they also spread you out, create some matchup problems because of the great skill guys that they have, outside in their wide receiver core. Defensively, they're always very well coached team that plays really sound fundamentally. They've always got good guys in the back end, which they certainly do this year in terms of the cover people. And they got great team speed, so they're really good on special teams. So there's not a lot of weaknesses in what you see in this team. And when you play teams like this, I think the most important thing you can do is focus on what you have to do to prepare and know that execution is going to be critical in the game, and try to have a great week in terms of how you practice and prepare for the game and focus on that. You guys always ask me, what are you going to do different this week because you're playing the number one team in the country? Well, every game that we play is an important game, especially when you're playing in the SEC, especially when you're playing in your division. And this is most certainly an important game. But if there was a better way to do it, we'd already be doing it. So I think that our players are pretty comfortable in our weekly preparation of what we try to do, and that's what we want them to stay focused on. And that's how we're going to try to approach it.
What have you learned over the years with a game like this and the hype around it? How have you learned how to manage that over the years?
Well, I think the big thing you want the players to do is not get involved in the hype surrounding the game, or even think about the implications of the game, but prepare for the game as if this is the best team you've played, and the player that you're going to play is the best player you played against at his position all year long, and therefore you're going to need to challenge yourself to play your best and be your best as a football player and stay focused, on that, and not the distractions that surround the game relative to implications or whatever gets created relative to the circumstance of the game.
Coach, what's the practice plan at quarterback today and going forward this week?
Right. Well, been pretty consistent on the message with Tua. If he can play in the game, it'll be a game time decision. He did practice 2 days last week. We'll see where he's at today, and then we'll manage the reps accordingly. And when I say that, we cannot predict. If he goes out there today and he looks good, then his rep count is going to go up, and we'll prepare him as if he's going to have an opportunity to play in the game. If he has a setback during the week, we can't really control that, but that would change the plan. The way we practice on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, both quarterbacks are going to get pretty much the same reps, and that's probably how we'll manage it this week in terms of their preparation.
And there it is right there, Nick Saban talking about getting ready for this game and and what it means as they get set to go. It is one where obviously if you are a fan of football, you understand how vital that was to talk about that situation and whether Tua is going to play, but it's exactly the answer that you expect to get from Nick Saban. That's all the time we have for Roll Tide Radio, brought to you by Gordon Auto Wholesale. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening to Roll Tide Radio. I'm Chad Brillante. Coming up, Paul Feinbaum. We'll talk more, I'm sure, on LSU, Alabama, just a little. And then coming up, it will be the Sports Drive tonight at 5. Thanks for joining us here on Roll Tide Radio.
ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
All them dogs are counting down, about to put the anchor down. Hotty toddy, who's it gonna be? Cowbells and swamp, the Aggies strong. There's nothing like the SEC. The weekend's full of surprise. Hit 'em with the flex. From Williams Spice to Death Valley. On the Feinbaum Show, Paul's on the roll. If he don't get the best of me, call Paul.
Alabama.
It's your show, go ahead.
You got a damn burn crappy attitude. Let me talk, Danny. Okay, go. Talk about the tide that's rolling in. The weekend's full of surprises. From big upsets to robberies. On the Feinbaum Show, heads are gonna roll. If they don't get the best of me, we'll call Paul. He'll make sense of it all.
I really don't know where to go after that.
Don't take those calls.
I could give you my address and phone number if you're ever in this neck of the woods.
In my life, I've never had a phone call like that.
The Paul Feinbaum Show is presented by Regions Bank.
We say hello to you on what could be the biggest week, well, is the biggest week of the college football season. Game of the Century Part 2. Speculation this afternoon that even the President of the United States, who just went to a UFC fight in Madison Square Garden, is seriously considering showing up Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Let's get to the headlines, if that isn't enough for you, on the Monday after this happened. Florida win behind them. A fresh outlook for the Bulldogs. How about Kirby Smart in that game down in Jacksonville? The defense was all right, wouldn't you say? Yeah, they were unbelievable. They do not like anybody rushing on them, especially for a touchdown. Hasn't happened. And look at this, some of these numbers. So Kirby Smart and the Dogs are looking good, and I'm sure, I have a feeling, I just have a strange feeling we'll hear from a few Florida Gator fans who just thought the officiating was perfect. Game of the Century, we mentioned that. The president making plans to head to Tuscaloosa, and he won't be seeing Michael Divinity play, one of the top players on the defensive side of the ball for the Tigers. Is done. Ed Ogeron, what about it?
Michael Divinity has left the team for personal reasons.
And how do you see the outside linebacker depth fill in his absence?
Kellerman Chasson has been taking most of the reps, so Andre Anthony is going to be there. Ray Thornton's going to be there. We should be fine.
Just for the record, is there a possibility for Divinity to return potentially?
We're not going to close the door on that, but we'll see.
Yeah, right. We will see. Meanwhile, it's that week. Arguments, College Football Playoff Committee can ignite with first rankings. A lot of conversation about this. I don't think Alabama will be number one when the polls come out. LSU's got a pretty good shot. It will be either Alabama Alabama, I think, will trail LSU and possibly even Ohio State. Will Clemson be in the top four? Yes, they will. So where is the Pac-12 stand versus the Big 12? I can tell you right now, they stand really well. So, I don't know if this ranking is going to be the most eagerly anticipated because I think the top four are going to be the same that are in almost everyone's top four. The one where I'm looking the closest would be where is the Oregon-Georgia debate. It won't matter really because Georgia can take care of all that by winning out. It really won't matter about Alabama or LSU because the winner of that game will be number one next Tuesday. What does matter is where is Clemson? Are they safely inside the top four after having played a schedule that on paper you can prop up, but the eye test has not supported it very well? And where is the Big 12? Probably out. The Pac-12 probably closer than many of us thought they would be. Big show on tap. Marty Smith down on the bayou. Chris Lowe, where you would expect Chris Lowe to be today. Mike Bianchi, who did some trash talking last fall about Dan Mullen about to take over as the new sheriff in town. Now he's going after Dan Mullen. And Connor Riley from Dog Nation. But first, your phone calls at 855-242-7285. And let's start with Augie in New Orleans, always a Monday staple here on the show. Hello, Augie. Augie, are you there? Am I the only one not hearing him? Okay, sorry about that, Augie. Chris is up next. Chris, go right ahead.
Okay, Paul. Thanks for letting me in.
Thank you.
So for the weeks, I'm sorry. Let me start over. I should start. How you doing, Paul?
I'm great. What's on your mind, Chris?